Okay, so thanks, Gary, to talk about the perspective of a virtual bank, how they build their open API. So in the next section, we do also have a very interesting talk, especially on the Web3. So I am trying to introduce our next speaker, Gio. He is from APIscene, the head of enterprise. So yeah, Gio, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you 100%, Patrick.
Yeah, okay, so he will be talking about how to connecting to the Web3, DeFi, and beyond. So I believe that a lot of people is now having discussion of what exactly is Web3, NFT, etc. So how exactly the region is doing. So we are lucky to have Gio to talk about this and share to us. So thanks, Gio. I pass the time to you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick. And it's so great to be back here at API Days. I've spoken at a couple of events, and as the previous speaker was mentioning, API Days is a vanguard when it comes to technology, leading trends, and just obviously any topic around APIs, open APIs, and what they can facilitate in the future. So my name is Gio. I'm the enterprise lead here at API 3. Basically, I work with your kind of Fortune 2000 companies and data providers in the space. And I also have a bit of an education purpose where, I kind of attend these conferences to also just get the audience to understand the technology a little bit better, as it is quite interesting. I think just, on the previous speakers, comments, 98% of us here at the conference actually grew up on Web 1. Web 1.0, and I think he actually makes a really good point where looking generationally, we're kind of seeing a new cohort, coming into the space, and that they're basically on this kind of Web 2.5. But I guess to kind of move forward and understand the next iteration of the internet, we need to kind of go back, right? And we need to kind of see what the evolution of the web looks like, and that then kind of segues us into what Web3 is, DeFi, the risk and opportunities, and then also in terms of how do you connect your data and monetize these opportunities to Web3. So I'm going to start off with kind of going back to Web 1.0, which we all know was a bit of a read-only mechanism. So it started in the 1990s to 2004. This basically was the child of Tim Berners-Lee, the father of the World Wide Web. And the idea here is to create this kind of open, decentralized protocol. So that was kind of the goal, right? Was to kind of create this kind of network that allowed information sharing anywhere on Earth, and also, to survive a nuclear fallout. I think that was one of the main reasons for the birth of the internet. We kind of saw static websites, so companies just basically had them as business cards on the internet. So there was zero interaction between you and customers. And they seldomly produce content, and this is why it's known as the read-only web. And you'll see kind of some familiar terms: HTML, HTTP, URL. We still kind of use these concepts today on Web 1.0. And I think just before I move on to the next slide, the kind of outcome or the purpose of this presentation is for you as an attendee of this exclusive conference to basically understand exactly where we were, where we are, and where we're going, so that you can kind of go back with a high level understanding of the Web3 ecosystem and what it's doing. So hopefully this will be a great takeaway for you. And just as a quick side note, there is a lot of content in this presentation, as I'd love for you guys to kind of be a little bit of experts when it comes to going back to your corporation and kind of giving this information. So this presentation will be made available. There are hyperlinks and extra resources you can go through. So we obviously know with Web 1.0, going back to the presentation, read only, we know Java, Internet Explorer, Yahoo, MSN. A lot of us kind of grew up on these. I still actually have a Yahoo email address from the legacy days. So if you see from this image, it was just basically a one-way communication channel. Now we're looking at Web 2.0. So basically, this is the generational cohort now that's almost 20 years old. They basically grew up on Web 2.0. So social media platforms, right? This is where we read and write, and we can kind of interact. So companies then basically iterated upon the internet, where now it became user-generated content to engage on user interactions. And I think initially when we all signed up for those Facebook accounts, it was quite interesting back in the day, right? So this was the birth of these kind of advertising models. where you became the product, and not many people understood that. There's some good documentaries on Netflix that take you through how you become the commodity on these free platforms. We know MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And this is where users could create the content, but they did not benefit from monetization, right? So now we're all thinking differently. I'm creating content, I'm engaging communities. Should I not have a slice of the pie, right? And this was the birth of the kind of social media, cloud computing, and mobile use technologies. So obviously brands we know, Facebook, birth of Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Chrome, WhatsApp, and obviously Google Docs as examples. And this was a two-way communication that we have. The previous speaker touched on Web 2.5. So I know it's a very strange concept, but this is the in-between, right? So this is where we have companies such as big brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton. You can name you can name an array, Adidas, Nike. And what they've done is they still have centralized systems, centralized governance mechanisms, etc. But what they've done is they've adapted some of these technologies, blockchain-based technologies such as non-fungible tokens, NFTs, within the context of Web 2. And this, I think, is a great play given the current generational cohort, right? They're already 20 years old. They're going to start earning income. They want kind of exposure to brands. They want to be part of something interesting. And this is where there's this transition happening, where they can utilize NFTs to kind of allow for strong discovery, user experience, brand recognition, and web. This is where these brands use this technology in kind of sandboxed environments. So think of it as crypto assets going mainstream. But this is where DeFi, or decentralized finance, meets CeFi, centralized finance, or centralized ecosystems. And we can kind of see a convergence on the metaverse. So this is kind of, I'd say, the next 5-year kind of growth spurt is Web 2.5. And we obviously know Meta, or Facebook, previously known as Facebook, entering the space, Coca-Cola with all their NFTs, Nike. I think I was reading an article where Nike did over $185 million of NFT sales just this year. Absolutely mind-boggling. But anyways, let's dive into Web3. So now we've got the context. What is Web3? So now take extending beyond. This is read, write, and own. So now you actually end up owning what you create, right? So I think obviously Web3 towards really mainstream adoption is probably 10 years out, right? So now the new generational cohort is kind of engaging with this Web 2.5. We've shown that it works with the NFT boom. And now we're kind of entering into this kind of new phase. So basically, Gavin Wood, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, that is one of the blockchain smart contracting platforms, he kind of coined this term. And this is where they realized that the current web structure has too much trust in the hands of private companies. So, and sometimes private companies act in the worst interests of the public. So, powered by distributed ledger technology, or blockchain, Web3 uses blockchains, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs to give back ownership. So, looking at Brave browser, a really interesting concept. You surf the internet, they pay you for your attention, right? So it's an attention-based model. You have a stake in the revenue generated. So if you engage, you get compensated. Whereas currently now using Google and other web browsers, you're just kind of being extracted, right? So rent seeking through extractive behaviors, you are the product as always. Obviously, Bitcoin and Ethereum are kind of the Bitcoin being the first, and then Ethereum being the kind of iteration of this. The core ideas are, I'm not going to kind of go into too much depth of this because, as I mentioned, this is just to get you guys interested and kind of fall down the rabbit hole and explore it a bit further. So the core ideals of this Web3 movement is completely decentralized, permissionless, native payments built into the protocols and the applications, and trustless. So having those kind of 4 elements allows us to iterate on Web 2.0 and bring this kind of new inclusive model to the masses. It obviously powers ownership. There's censorship resistance, in the sense that you're not able to shut it down. So we're obviously seeing things that where currently, even though people are calling it Web 3.0, they're relying on centralized databases, etc. So that's why I'm saying the true Web 3.0 is not here yet. And basically powering a new form of organizational structure called DAOs. I did a previous talk, links are in the PowerPoint presentation. Very interesting corporate model, type of corporate model. And then also kind of powering identity. Imagine now instead of you having to create 15 different accounts for 15 different applications, you have one way to identify yourself. So is this person over the age of 18 years old? Can they engage on this platform, etc.? And also native payments built within the ecosystem. So it also kind of, banks and financial institutions now need to think very carefully about how this places them in these new models if payments are native, right? Because we use banks for that specific purpose, and also the risk transfer mechanism. So, but remember, this is not the panacea. This is not the solution for everything. There are limitations to Web3. So let's also kind of go into this level-headed, look at the risk and the return, and understand what we need to do. Obviously, accessibility can be an issue. The user experience is kind of still lacking. Education is starting to grow, but not many people understand it. That's why I'm here, to help you guys navigate the space. And then obviously utilizing centralized infrastructure, as I mentioned, as a point of failure is kind of, we transitioning from the Web 2.5 to the complete 3.0 ecosystem. So now moving into this, now understanding Web3, this powers decentralized finance. And what is decentralized finance? Building on traditional finance concepts, we just add blockchain technology to it, and then we end up getting DeFi. So we see a lot of the DeFi movement built on top of Ethereum, which is a smart contracting or virtual machine, distributed computer, basically, if you could think of it very high level. And basically, traditional banks govern and control people's assets. That's why they're called centralized entities. With DeFi, it's more transparent, permissionless, and it's basically challenging this legacy capital and its monopoly on it. So we can see that, it's emancipating people that want to kind of be their own bank. They want to custody their own solutions. They don't want to kind of conform to any kind of bureaucracy or borders or barriers. And this is why it's called a DeFi defiance in terms of how I term it, is this kind of movement towards that. And DeFi is where you hold, or this custodian of your assets. So you hold your wallets, your private keys. So think of it as holding your login details to your vault or your bank accounts. And obviously that's got its pros and its cons to it, right? But also DeFi has now unlocked new elements, such as tokenization. It's also opened up, automation, transparency in issuance, in collateral, and all new mechanisms, as I mentioned, DAOs. And we can obviously see that, DeFi in 2020 grew to an $11 billion kind of industry from 690 million. So that's insane. Obviously now we can see correlated with general financial markets, it has come down, but just the share interest based on the monetary value is very interesting. And obviously the ecosystem's evolved. We've seen it become more complicated. So just as a normal financial system needs risk hedging tools, lending tools, exchanges, stable coins, they've kind of iterated and created that, right? So all through smart contracts and in these new digital instruments. So DeFi enables this kind of new way to make financial products much cheaper, frictionless, transparent. So now you can have fractional ownership. You can have tokenization of traditional assets or digital twins, and it elevates trust. The only thing is obviously performance now. We're seeing that these blockchains are moving towards proof of stake and kind of higher performing, blockchain technologies, as an example. And obviously yield, right? We were all interested in, interest rates are very low for a couple of years. The markets weren't doing much. DeFi had a new way of giving people yield in this space. So this is a lovely image, which kind of shows the interaction between DeFi and CeFi. So obviously, financial firms bridge savers, lenders, and borrowers, and they kind of do this function. And then there's on-ramps that then kind of bring you into DeFi in terms of, getting your wallets, getting money on-chain from an off-chain environment. This is just the DeFi ecosystem depicted. So if you're interested, you can kind of say, asset management industry, dive into a couple of, protocols like set protocol, see what they do. If you're more interested in your kind of NFT marketplaces, going to Super Rare and OpenSea. But yeah, this is just for the audience's interest, dive into any one of these. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the growth is exponential, but we're also seeing with growth comes, also risk. So there have been, I haven't included the Terra Luna and other events, but from Q1 of this year, $1.6 billion of exploits. So we can just imagine, I think that is now probably in the 30, 40 millions with not only exploits, but other sagas such as Three Arrows Capital, the Celsius situation, etc. And I've just given you a high-level example, so I'm not going to go into too much depth with this one, but if you think of open lending, lending and borrowing, basically it's a bank on a blockchain, and companies you can explore like Aave, MakerDAO, and Compound. These are protocols that do lending and borrowing and kind of money markets instruments on chain. And then just a smart contract is a very brief one. Some of you might thinking, well, how does this technology work? Smart contracts, this is not a new concept, right? It's been around since the 1990s. Wei Dai came up with this kind of concept, and then Nick Szabo proposed adding cryptographic elements or blockchain, and that became a smart contract. So we can think of smart contracts as basically code is law, right? And because code is law, and everybody can view this code, it's more transparent and trustworthy. So we don't have to trust individuals. And that's why banks exist, right? Some people don't trust each other. Like if I said to you, don't worry, man, I trust you. I'm going to send you 1 gold bar. Can you send me the money? I send you the gold bar. You don't send me the money. What is my recourse? So banks kind of came into the picture to kind of stand as escrows in this process. But now if we can automate that, opens up new use cases. And he has a kind of interesting use case with real estate where we could actually automate smart contracts. We could actually literally have IoT devices where someone pays the rental. There's a lockbox. The lockbox opens. You get the keys to the property. We can make a smart home. So if the person doesn't pay, they kind of electricity gets switched off, etc. But this can all be powered by smart contracts. Then NFTs. I think everyone doesn't realize we are all NFTs. So we are all unique. And that's what an NFT is, right? It's a unique piece of intellectual property, non-fungible. That's what it means. And it's a type of token standard. So let's not get confused with art and music. That is one application. NFTs can be applied to title deeds, financial products, insurance contracts. So this is not just a CryptoKitty, CryptoPunk or Bored Ape. These are quite well-known NFT projects that are worth thousands of dollars a piece. But it kind of extends beyond that. And this is why we're seeing the first iteration of this. So risks and opportunities, the old adage stays true. Risk versus return, higher the risk, higher the return. In my view, as I mentioned, Web3. So we're kind of just grasping Web2. Web3 is more in a beta stage. So user acceptance testing or UAT environments for those that are in the corporate space. In the sense that it's still finding a killer app to be powered by distributed ledger technology, and that would become the huge catalyst. That's in my personal opinion. So crypto assets are the hype, but there's other things that are coming. And we see the next kind of iteration of this is TradFi converging with Web3, Forex rates, commodities, equities, indices, all kind of powering this kind of DeFi movement. So now API 3, what is API 3 and how can we help you? Because you're at this conference kind of thinking, I'm not here just for education, but I'm also here to see where we can monetize this. So API 3 is a decentralized autonomous organization. So we are powered as a corporate entity on a blockchain with shareholders, inverted commas, that are token holders and these token holders can be anybody that has an interest in this project. And basically, they help us set the direction on corporate actions. So we are an EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine Compatible platform. We work with an array of blockchains, and we cloud agnostic. So you'll see how that works. But basically, we saw that there were limitations, and we kind of innovated beyond this, creating a middleware or an API gateway that allows a traditional business that's in Web 2 to now move over to Web 3. And obviously, Web 2.5 businesses can also utilize this. So it kind of gives you the opportunity to tap into a new marketplace. And obviously, we've got some very notable investors: SOSV, Emergo, Pantera Capital, Placeholder, Digital Currency Group. These are very big venture capital firms investing into what we're doing. This is just a picture. I probably won't have time to run through it, but it has been mentioned in other presentations. But in essence, a DAO is governed by the people, for the people. And this is where trustless governance comes in. So we can bring data from an off-chain space to the on-chain environment in a way that everybody can see as transparent and bring trust back to the ecosystem. The issue is a lot of people forget about the one of the most important elements of a blockchain. There's actually 3. One is the consensus algorithm. So that is how all computers kind of interact with each other and reach a consensus on the single state. Then we have the encryption, which is what everybody knows, the cryptography. But we also forget about the data input functions, because at the end of the day, if we're encrypting something and the computers are reaching consensus, but the information's incorrect to start off with, then the blockchain's useless. So this is where a data oracle, which is what API 3 is, comes in. So it's the data input onto the blockchain. As mentioned, we're solving this Web3 connectivity issue where currently a Web2 infrastructure cannot communicate directly with Web3. And for that reason, they need to have a simple solution that's quick to set up, set and forget, free to deploy to reason, and also as a first party solution. So in other words, instead of having a middleman involved, which there are current providers in the blockchain space, that are third party, which means you have to trust someone else with your data instead of you selling or providing your data directly. That can be a huge issue because it just increases your risk, vector of risk. So in terms of the products that API 3 has that can kind of help you navigate the space, we've got 4 products. So we've got something called our Air node, and our Air node is called a request response protocol. So it's free to deploy. It works with any REST-based API. It's set and forget and works with any cloud provider. And basically, you as a Web2 company, if you have data, whether it's weather data, commodities data, etc., or even financial information, and you want to kind of monetize that to a new audience, you connect to the Air node using one of our sister company tools called Chain API. You can self-deploy it yourself, and then you can basically provide that data, and it's on a request and a response basis. We also have a quantum random number generator, and that is powered by the Air node with our partnership with the Australian National University. So you're creating NFTs, you want to make sure that these NFTs, sorry, it's not the slide, but if you want to create NFTs, you want to make sure that they are super unique, powered by a way that these NFTs are super unique, quantumly backed. You use the API 3 ANU QRNG, quantum random number generator tool. And then what we have is this product over here, which are our data feeds. They're also known, or price feeds. They're also known as beacons in our terminology. So single source beacons from providers. So this is where a continuous amount of data needs to be provided on chain. So let's say we have a synthetic asset. So say it's a tokenized gold. That tokenized gold needs to have a reference rate. So it needs to know the gold price. So you would then connect Data Oracle to the London Metal Exchange, as an example. The London Metal Exchange would sell that data to the protocol that's creating the synthetic, and the synthetic would track that gold price. And how they do that is through the single sourced or DAPI. So basically, just a high level on how that works is it looks at the deviation in the price and writes the answer on chain, and then the application can then pick that up. In terms of our DAPI, that is called the beacon set. So you could just think about this as an aggregation of that gold price, so multiple sources, and then that's done on chain for the DApp to receive that. And both of these products are risk protected or covered services. In other words, API 3 as a DAO stands surety that if the technology breaks, we compensate the users for those actions. So in terms of Web3 APIs, we basically can assist you as being the glue. Because obviously APIs are the glue for any ecosystem. Same for Web3. We can assist you by plugging and playing into a REST API, seamless integration. We can help you monetize your data. And we work with, obviously, cloud agnostic through the tool Chain API. So we'd be interested to work with you guys. I think I'm almost done because I'd love to take some questions quickly if possible. But these are other topics that you can look into that delve more in depthly into DAOs, smart contracts, open insurance, DeFi defiance in more depth if you're interested. And then also within the pack or the presentation that'll be provided to you, I've put some extra information for you guys to read, as well as also the technical documentation, because it is open source software on how you can go about potentially connecting. And we do, just as a side note, we do workshops with large Fortune 2000 companies. So if you're a large bank, a large financial institution, or even just a market data provider or any other data provider, and you want to monetize your data to Web3, please reach out to me. My email is in the deck, and we can have a chat on how we can do a proof of concept with you. Obviously, we don't charge for the proof of concepts, and we want you to get involved in Web3. And that's the presentation, guys. So my name is Giovanni. We'll help navigate Web3 with API 3. Back to you, Patrick.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Gio. So, your topic, your section is very useful. So, unfortunately, we don't have much time for the Q&A. So that I think, if the audience have any questions, feel free to reach out Gio directly, or also send us to us, and then we can help to connect as well. So, once again, thanks, Gio. And I think this topic is quite new, and then we do see that there should be a lot of questions and want to see your expertise as well. Okay. So once
Excellent.
again,
Thanks,
thanks
Patrick.
for your time. Thanks, Joe. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye bye.